Hello, this is our fourth lecture of the course 412, Essay Writing. The last thing we talked about last time was how we read a text. We'll continue with this time, and we apply it on a particular text. So let's see the skill of reading. Reading skills in preparation for writing arguments. Scanning and skimming. When I read a text, I scan quickly and then I skim. I scan, I have a good look, a very quick one, not reading word by word. Let's see how we read the text in front of us. Consider the following text. First I look, this is one paragraph, very clear in my eyes, and then there is another, starting with except. I see the whole text is made up of a number of paragraphs. The first paragraph will be read in full, but the next ones will be read just as a part of them, the very first sentence. Let's see the first paragraph. Your parents, I would imagine, consider your generation incomprehensible, sometimes frightening, and certainly unconventional. Everything you wear, grow on your face or head, think, believe, do, is way out of the room or their norm. I see this thing, it's writing in simple English, it's talking to the reader directly, saying your parents, and talking about herself, because when I looked at this first, I looked at the end, it's written by a writer, a lady writer. We'll see this in a minute. Then I see the beginnings, except marriage. So here this teaches me something. The whole paragraph at the beginning says everything about us is not conventional, is unconventional. The parents say about the new generation that they are not like them, they are incomprehensible. They cannot understand them, incomprehensible. They are not conventional, they are not like everybody else. Everything is different, changed from what they were. Everything is out of their norm, away from the way they consider. So everything in us is different except marriage. So in marriage, we do it like everybody else. I'll not read the rest, I'm just scanning, looking quickly and skimming. So I move to the next paragraph. If you're lucky, you will find yourselves through each other, two people in marriage. The ideal nature of love and the true and rare blessing of marriage. So I read this one, I see what it means. I move on quickly to the next one. Many of our laws and institutions, as you will know, have not caught up with reality. The fact that men and women cannot be codified. We'll see this after we read the next one. I skip this, I go to the next paragraph. How brave, how independent are you when you are alone? So only when I'm alone, but generally, I'm not independent, I'm not brave. Okay, another paragraph. The last one, I read it in full. Listen to your own drum and march to it. You may fall on your face, but then anybody who never does is nobody. The last paragraph says, do what you believe you have to do. Do what you believe is your own way. Be independent. Isn't this the idea that we heard before? Okay, let's see. The writer is Maria Mans, a writer, a lady writer. And she talks about herself. Who am I? The whole idea of our identity. Herself, because we also learn about ourselves. I go back to the beginning of the essay and I have another look at it. So I scan first, and the skim means I move my eyes very quickly and see the totality of the text, like the author, as we did with the book. The author, the publisher, the year, the name of the article, the first paragraph telling us that we are like everybody else. First she says we are different in things which are important, like our hair, like things on our faces and so on. The first paragraph says that the young generation is unconventional. The young generation is incomprehensible. The young generation is different from the norm. But then, except in marriage. Why is this a phrase, not a sentence? It must have an importance. And why does it come at the beginning of paragraph 2? Paragraph 1 could be an introduction giving me the background. The background meaning that if young people look different, they are not different here. I'm not reading the words, I'm reading the paragraphs. I'm reading the division into paragraphs. So the writer here wants to say, I introduce the subject saying that we look at young people, we think they are different. But look here, they are not different in marriage. And then we come to the last paragraph again, because the thesis will be repeated. in the last paragraph she says, listen to your own drum. People, listen to yourselves, which means be independent. Well, back again, I look here, she said, except in marriage. So we are not independent. We are like everybody else. Now, what I have done here is scanning and skimming before I read the text. By scanning and skimming, looking very quickly at the whole text from beginning to end, as if holding the book in my hand, not reading what's inside, looking at the covers, reading the page of content, and only skimming, which means taking the first paragraph and the last paragraph, because we have the introduction and the conclusion and the beginnings of paragraphs. If I do this a lot, I will see a technicality in English which says that all texts are organized in a particular manner. All texts have structure. The structure means we don't simply write the ideas anywhere. The writer structures her essay in this way. She says, I'll write an introduction saying to people, look, you think you are different. Then, no, you are not different. And then I prove it here with details and details. At the end I say, please be different. Be yourselves. If I read in this manner, I'm really reading English. And another thing, I'm reading the text here as if it is writing, as if I'm learning how to write. I learn to write an introduction in the first paragraph about my topic, or here even the opposite of the topic. I write topic sentences, I write the conclusion, I have the idea structured well. And we see this in every essay we do. Now, I go to the second reading. The second reading, I look at the words, and I look at the details. But I look at them, and I understand them according to the global idea. Global idea, the younger generation are not different from the older generation, although they look different. We look at them, they look different because they put on t-shirts that are different from t-shirts of their fathers, or the suits of their fathers. Sometimes young men will grow their beards because they want to look different, not like their fathers. They put something on the head, some kind of a cap or whatever. So you look at a young man and say, look, these young men are individuals, they are different, they are not like their fathers. But you study them deeply, they are like everybody else. They are still like the fathers, they are traditional. They do everything traditionally, at least in the subject of marriage. Now, this understanding will make me understand the details. Paragraph 1 tries to shock us. We look at you, young people, you look different, but you're not. But you're not is the most important element in my thesis. How is it expressed here? It's at the end of the introduction. Introduction, look at them, they look different. Then in a very short statement, a very short phrase, not even a sentence, and this acquires importance. She says, except in marriage. So this idea is about marriage and how people are conventional about it. Now, we look at the structure, we understand all the details, even without understanding many of the words. Because if we say we need to understand every single word, it means we can never understand anything. We understand the single words by understanding the structure. So when I read more and more, and I read the hundreds of thousands of words of English, every word takes meaning and becomes like a viable thing that can live in the environment, because it takes meaning from what's around it. A student reading English will start with 2,000 words and will be able to understand something like hundreds of thousands, let's say 1,000,000 words, because language is not words. Language is structures. The smallest structure is the sentence. A larger one, of course, will be the paragraph, how it is structured with a topic sentence explained after that, and we should follow that. Topic sentence that's very general, and then we particularize, explain it with explanation and examples, concrete ones, so we can understand that. And another thing, the structure of the whole essay. One idea, not many. In this idea in front of us, the writer is saying that young people are unconventional in facade, in the surface, but in reality and in marriage they are not. One idea is there from beginning to end. Because it is one idea, I'm not going right and left. I can understand everything because everything serves this idea. When new words come, new structures even come, new idioms, I still can absorb them and teach myself. If I use my intelligence and an ability to compare and contrast things, to infer, to see the global idea, understand things accordingly, I start with 2,000 words, and after years of reading, I understand hundreds of thousands of words and understand a lot about life and about books by using this ability to infer, to compare, and to process the text. That's what we're doing here. We saw the global idea. Let's go to the details. We read first extensively, then intensively. The global one, then the details. But details will be clearer now. Back again to the text, we say, your parents, I would imagine, consider your generation incomprehensible. Students who do not understand that word, they know the word comprehension. If comprehension means understanding, so comprehensible means understood, and incomprehensible is not understood. I can also understand that I would imagine is parenthetical, and I can cancel it altogether, and I read your parents consider your generation incomprehensible. To simplify, your parents say you are not understood. You look very strange. I don't understand you. So we go on. Sometimes frightening. Not only that I can't understand you, but you frighten me because you look very strange. And certainly unconventional. Unconventional should be something like incomprehensible, not the meaning exactly, but they go in the same direction. They cannot be understood, and they are strange. They are not like everybody else. Everything you wear, this sentence explains the sentence before. So if I don't understand unconventional and conventional, I understand everything, the explanation. The text always explains itself. Everything you wear grow on your face or head, like your mustache or your hair. Think, everything you think, you believe, you do, is way out of the norm. Way out of is very much away from, it's not like their norm, the norms, the traditions, the things they consider normal. The first paragraph says clearly the young people are strange, are different, are unconventional, are not like their fathers and mothers, their parents. Now, we don't call this a thesis, of course. This is the background. This is the background against the writer says they are not like this in marriage. The fact that except marriage is written as a phrase gives it emphasis. The fact that it is at the very beginning of paragraph 2, especially paragraph 2, if paragraph 1 is an introduction, makes this a part of the thesis. Except means they are not conventional, or they are strange in everything, but not in marriage. So I can rephrase except in marriage, saying people are traditional in marriage. The young generation are very traditional in marriage. To make it simpler, the young people are just like their fathers and mothers in marriage. We need explanations now, more details. In a world of undreamed of scope and opportunity and choice, most of you do exactly what your parents did. Here is the thesis. You do exactly what your parents did. Against what? What's around us? There are lots of scope and opportunity, but we don't have all these choices. We leave them and we do exactly like father and mother. In a much more limited world, you rush to the altar to tie the league. First rush. The people get married very early. The newer generations should know better. Our world is different. They have, for example, to have education, to find a job, to do lots of things, but they rush without thinking very early to the altar to tie the legal tie to get married from the age of 18. You see that? Upward to a girl no older. So the young man is 18, the girl is something like 18 or a little younger, but never older, of course. Here you are in the full flower of body and mind, and I speak of both sexes, girl and boy, and with the only pure freedom of action you will ever know again. You're still young, you have freedom of action, you're still 18. Why don't you use your time when you're still young, for example, in education and a job and so on, but you tie the tie of marriage while you're still at that age. And you tie yourself to the one mate and one half before you know who you are. You choose your mate, your partner in marriage, your wife or your husband, and the place you will be in while you are still very young and you don't know who you are. The mistake here is that these people are immature. Why do they get married while they are still immature? Why do they imitate parents or grandfathers? If you're lucky, maybe things are not wrong if you're lucky. But we should notice something here. The writer says, if you're lucky, as we saw before, first she's talking to the reader, you. And she uses contractions. So later on we'll comment on that text saying that the language of this text is informal, because she talks to the reader directly, you, all the time, you, a number of times, and also there are contractions like in conversation. The text is written in formal English. If you're lucky, you will find yourselves through each other. The ideal nature of love, the true and rare blessing of marriage. This says, yes, sometimes things go fine, but not all the time. If you're not lucky, and the evidence would call you a majority, the not lucky people are the majority, you will be two half persons. So we are not full persons yet. You are two half persons, half grown, prematurely bound, inhibiting each other's growth, choking up the road to your full development as a human being. This is a mistake. So get married very early and you don't help each other develop and grow and find your chances in life. Many of our laws and institutions, as you will know, have not caught up with reality. The fact that men and women cannot be codified. Men and women are not exactly the same. We can't have codes for them. So long as we do others no harm, so long as we do not do others no harm, how we choose to live is our own affair and ours alone. And if you are able to bring about an intelligent society, one of the most important things you will have to do is remove the senseless stigmas that still prevail against single men and single women. Now, this whole part says that the society does not change. Starting from the beginning, many of our laws and institutions of the society, as you will know, have not caught up with reality. They are not developing. Reality has developed, but they have not developed. Why? These laws and institutions still say that we should get married very young. And this is not the good idea today. They say we should get married very young because there is a bad idea about being single for men or women. This idea must change because the reality has changed. But society is still the same. So we have the same ideas of the past about the bad idea of a single person, man or woman. How brave, how independent are you when you are alone? I ask this chiefly of my own sex. She's a writer, the writer is a woman, so she means of women. For I wonder whether girls now really know and want the chance and choices that are open to them. She's talking to girls and she says, why don't you choose the chances that are open in front of you? Or whether they have been so conditioned by history and habit that they slip back into the old patterns of their mothers the minute they graduate. She's talking now about girls and how they get married early, just after graduation. They do the same thing like their mothers or the history did before. Now she says they have better chances to develop, to find a job, whatever, and no, they do what other people did in the past. It is about time that we realized that many women make better teachers than mothers. The old system was that women should be mothers, and that's it. Sometimes now we understand that many women could be better teachers, better actresses than wives, better diplomats than cooks at home. We have lost a great deal of talent and wasted a great many lives in the perpetuation of these myths. The myths of the past saying that women can only work at home. So they get married very early and they stay at home. These are the myths of the past. Why are they still living with us? That are called the role of men or the role of women, the old ideas. And just as you have managed to dissipate some of them in your dress, I hope you will dissipate others in your lives. Young women today have changed the mores and the traditions of the past in their dress. So they choose different kinds of dresses or clothes, jeans for example, whatever, but they didn't change anything about the myth of the role of women. This is still with us, it's the same. People don't change here. They look they have changed, but they haven't. Details. The writer writes this because he has a message. We should change things. We are the new generation. maybe she says to the young people, why don't you listen to your own drum? There are new ideas, there is change, why don't you do that and march to it? You may fall on your face. When we listen to ourselves, when we do what we think is right, we make mistakes. We may fall on our faces, making a mistake, but then anybody who never does is nobody. Those people who never make mistakes, they are very afraid of making a mistake, so they do nothing, and they are nobody. So why not try, make a mistake, and then correct it, and then we'll be somebody. The writer is Maria Manns in Who Am I? Now questions could be like that. What is the point of view expressed by the writer? We can say the point of view, we can say the thesis, we can say the argument. The thesis, as we have seen, is that young people still think just like their grandparents, especially when marriage is concerned. Or we say it in any way we like, but we'll have the same idea. For example, young people look different, but they think in the same manner of their parents and grandparents. How did the writer develop her idea? She did one thing. She made an analysis of the young people and how they behave concerning marriage, and she talked about men and women and their roles. She made an analysis of young people, men and women, and how they rush to marriage and how they follow the grandparents' traditions without any change. Comment on the tone of the text. The tone is sarcastic. Why? Because at the beginning, of course, she says, we look different on our faces, the mustache and the hair and our clothes, but we're not really different. Or at the end when she said, we can fall on our faces when we make a mistake, but it doesn't matter. Her tone of voice is sarcastic, making a sarcasm of the people who do not change, who look different but they are not. It's funny, it's not very dry, she's not boring, she's making us become interested in what she says. Her tone here is funny and sarcastic even in a certain part. Now consider the style, or comment on the style. We said the style is informal, is highly informal, because she's talking directly to the reader. She says you and you are most of the time, and she uses lots of contractions, she uses simple English. It's like a conversation with the reader. She even says to the reader, do this and do that. This is highly informal. The style is highly informal. Why is the use of the first personal plural pronoun we an effective persuasive technique here? The writer said we, and in this manner she persuades us because she is like us. She is not haughty. She does not give us orders. She says you and I, we are alike. So this involves the writer and the reader in the problem. It's like a conversation with a person who is a friend. So we are convinced of what she's saying. She is not dictating us to us. She is discussing with us, and she says this problem involves her and the reader at the same time. This is a persuasive technique. She is convincing us. Does the text end on a negative or a positive note? Explain. She said people are the same. It's a dull thing. People don't change. They don't change. Does this mean that there is despair? There's a negative note? No. She says, listen to your drum. You will succeed. Now, she is very positive. She says, we can do something about it. So, the text doesn't end on a negative note. No, there's a positive one. We can change. Explain the meaning of the words norm, paragraph 1. When we read norm in paragraph 1, we see what's before it. She says, people look different and they are way out of the norm of their fathers and mothers. So they are very much away from the norm of the father and the mother. So norm here must mean something like the ways of, the criterion of, the measures, the ideas, and so on. We are not using here the dictionary meaning, but the meaning that can be guessed from the text. The word way out of their parents means very much away from what? From the manners of their parents. So this might mean manners. What's the meaning of perpetuation? Paragraph 5, line 8. We see perpetuation, we say perpetuation of the same method. So we understand that this means a continuation. We think about it again, we look at what's before, what's after, and we discover that she says they perpetuate the same idea. They make it continue, go on and on. The things we discussed can be put in a formal manner in this text. This is like dictionary items to help us know the exact meaning of words like thesis, tone, style, audience, the things we need to answer questions on text. The following concepts can help answer the previous questions. These are things just to understand. When we talk about thesis, what's the thesis we're talking about? The dictionary says thesis is the basic idea of an essay, usually stated in a single sentence. So when you ask about the thesis of a particular text, we don't go on explaining the whole text. The writer says this and that in paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. This is not the thesis. Thesis is stated in a single sentence. Of course, sometimes we need 2 sentences if the meaning necessitates that. But usually it is the idea of the text which has subject and verb. In logic we say subject and predicate. If we say tourism, this is not an essay. If we say Egypt, this is not a thesis. Egypt is not a thesis. Life in Egypt is not a thesis. But here we said the young people are not different from their parents is the thesis. We have a subject and a verb, and stated in a single sentence. In expository and argumentative writing, the thesis or theme is the unifying force that every word, sentence, and paragraph of the essay must support. Now, writing in an argument, as we do here, or generally in expository, the thesis or the theme of the writing means the idea that we follow from beginning to end. In the one we read now, Maria Mans was saying that the young people are not different from the older generation. Every paragraph explained that. So it's one idea, not one of many ideas. It is the unifying force that makes the text one unit. We ask about the tone. The tone is the reflection of the writer's attitude towards subject and audience. Attitude here is like point of view, but it is the reflection of the point of view. For example, he's happy or sad. He likes this or he doesn't like it. Let's see how we explain it more. The tone can be personal or impersonal. We talk about something in a personal manner, we describe it in a manner we like it, we don't like it, or is it impersonal like in expository writing? We can be objective. We don't state points of view, we don't show our feelings, or we can be subjective. There's very clear feelings here. We have adjectives that will say we like this thing or we don't like it. Or again, the tone can be expressed in irony. Irony when we say one thing and we mean the opposite. We say an honest person when we talk about a thief. This is ironical. Or we use sarcasm, or anger, or humor, or satire, or hyperbole when we make things very large. A quarrel between 2 people, we call it a battle. Now, we can use any of these words and so many others. Or understatement. Something like very great, we talk about it as something very small. Again, a battle, we call it a row, or a quarrel between 2 people. It could be serious or semi-serious. So the tone again, we call it the tone of voice. When the writer is speaking, we feel the writer is happy, or the writer is sad. The writer likes what he's talking about, or he hates this thing. The writer is angry because of what's happening. The writer is encouraging, is sympathetic, and so on. The writer is serious, or funny, or sarcastic. This is the tone. The style of writing, this is the level of the language used. Formal or informal, in very general words, or a degree in between. It is reflected in the use of sentence patterns. For example, the sentences are very long and complicated, the style is formal. Sentences are short and simple, it is informal. The vocabulary items. We use everyday language, it's informal. We use academic language and scientific English or whatever, this is vocabulary, this is the formal style. Use or non-use of contractions, saying it doesn't matter instead of does not matter. I can't do that instead of I cannot do that. This is contraction. Doesn't, isn't, it's, wouldn't, I'll, I've. All these are contractions. Contractions are used in conversational English. So if it is conversational English, it is informal English. Another thing, speaking directly to the reader. If we speak directly to the reader, this is informal English because this is conversational. Like in the text we read before, the writer says you and your and march and do this and do that. If I engage the reader in this manner, this is informal English. Now, who is the audience? The people for whom I'm writing the text. Who are they? The group of whom or for whom a work is intended. For a writer, the audience is the reader whom the writer desires to persuade. Not any reader. The particular reader the writer wants to convince. Inform or entertain. Common sense tells us that a writer should always write to the level and needs of the particular audience for whom the writing is meant. This means I'm writing for simple people, I use simple style. I'm writing for academics, I use academic style. For example, if you are writing for an unlettered audience, this means uneducated. You are writing for the public reader. It is pointless to cram your writing with many literary allusions. A lot of literary allusions, literary style and academic words, this is not for unlettered audience, for the uneducated. The meaning of such literary allusions will likely be misunderstood. Back again, how do I know the audience? I know the audience from the level of the writing. If the level of the writing, this is the style of writing, is very simple, with contractions, informal English, it means that I'm writing for the public reader, the general reader, for any reader. But if I'm writing in a scientific manner, if I'm using academic English, long sentences, this means I'm writing for educated people. And the meaning, of course, affects what I'm writing. I'm writing for women, I'm writing for the officials. The meaning will tell me who I'm writing for. Now we go back to diagrams that will divide our ideas in a clear manner. I write an essay. The first thing I do is that I think how to take the idea and divide it into first a claim and 3 points to support that claim. We draw a diagram to talk about singers, and let's see how we do that. We are asked to do this. Draw a diagram to lay out the manner of organizing an essay of argument on the following topic. Of course, we do this in preparation for writing the essay. This is not a requirement at any exams for writing essays. This is for the writer himself. The writer himself or herself will do this to help them think in an organized manner. So it's not a requirement of the essay to write a diagram, of course. The diagram is done for the student, to help the student think in a proper way, to help the student think in an organized manner and to have ideas organized properly. Now let's have a subject. The question says, do pop singers deserve the huge sums of money they make as revenues of their songs? Pop singers are like Ricky Martin, or like Celine Dion, or like Amr Diab, for example, Kazim Seher. These pop singers make a lot of money as revenues from their songs. People ask the question, do these singers deserve the huge amounts of money, the huge sums of money they make? Because some people say that they don't deserve all that money. So we have to say they do or they don't. If I say they do or they don't, this will be my claim. And my claim will be supported by, let's say, supporting idea number 1, support 2, support 3, support 4, and then the details. Now we have to think of a claim. Now we don't have any idea. This is the structure. Let's say the claim I'm going to make is this: these pop singers deserve the money they make. They make a lot of money and they deserve it. If I say that, I need to find 3 supporting ideas. At least I can add more. I can use one of them as entertainment. They give us a lot of entertainment. They give us something that we need. We have to be serious about that. We don't simply need serious things. We need entertainment. Without entertainment, we cannot continue in our lives. So they give us a lot of joy, of happiness, of entertainment. They make our lives better because we listen to these songs and we become better human beings, if they are good songs, of course. And we have to say at the introduction, we talk about pop singers who know what they are doing, who produce songs of a certain standard. So first they give us entertainment, they give us relaxation, they add beauty to our lives, they do a service to society, and we need this service. And this service is not something small, it's art, and they deserve a lot. So entertainment is one point. I move on to another point. I have to find something else to support this point of view, because there are lots of aspects to the issue. They deserve that because of the entertainment they give us. Number two, they deserve that because of the effort they exert. Now, we talk about the effort, and if we don't know about what good singers do, we don't see why they get all that money. But we have to know that a singer will spend a lot of money on training, on practicing, on buying equipment, on paying salaries for the team that work with this singer, and for the band. They keep practicing day after day. They buy the rights to a song, the words, the lyrics, and they pay taxes, lots of things. They exert an effort that costs money. They deserve the money for the effort they exert. And we should say that this kind of effort is really great, because what they produce is not just any kind of work, it's a work of art, again, that needs a lot of effort. So we see two things up to now. We see the effort exerted is great, and we see details of that effort. We don't see it at first sight, but we see the song in front of us. We think the song was done in a few minutes, but no, the song that runs for a few minutes on the screen, let's say, will take something like a month or two or even a year to prepare for, to practice and produce something as good as the one we see. The effort is one, and we mentioned another one before that. We need to move to a third idea. We think of the service they give to the society, we also think of them as just businessmen. In a free society, there is the idea of laissez-faire, laissez-passer, and this is the free market. There is the freedom of enterprise. They have chosen a certain kind of enterprise. They do it well, they compete, sometimes they succeed, sometimes they fail, sometimes they go bankrupt. In a free society, if they provide a service or a product, they are allowed to do that, and we cannot grudge them what they get. So, like a company producing any product, the company works and manufactures the product and gets money for that, and we allow the company to do this. Why don't we allow a band or a singer to work and produce a song and get money for that song? It's laissez-faire, the freedom of enterprise. I can add another one, other than freedom of enterprise, since they're doing something legal and something good. They're doing service to society. The last one could be taxation. These people pay a lot of money in taxes. They pay a very high rate of taxes. The taxes they pay is measured in millions of pounds, and this money goes for the people, for the society. The government will collect the taxes from different places and from the singers. This money will go for hospitals and will go for education, will help the society run. The government needs a lot of money to run the country, to run the system in general. This money is contributed by a number of people, a number of businesses, and one of them are these people, and they pay a lot. They make a lot of money, which means they pay a lot of money in taxation, and this serves the society, not only as entertainment, as I said at the beginning, but also in the form of running hospitals, running schools, running services. So at the end, I convince people that these pop singers deserve the fortunes they make, and I give 4 points. It doesn't have to be 4, of course. I could say 5, 6, 7, or 3, but I give a number of points, not only one, that support this point of view. If I'm writing this essay in full, I'm going to write a concluding paragraph, and of course at the beginning I write an introductory paragraph. I think of the introduction and the conclusion after I finish dividing the supporting ideas. I first think of the thesis. Thesis, as we said before, these people do deserve what they gain. But I write only the thesis in paragraph 1 and I leave the introduction till at the end. After mentioning the entertainment, mentioning the effort, mentioning the right for people to the idea of free enterprise, and mentioning the taxation or the taxes paid, now the idea is very clear in my mind. I know what to say as introduction to the subject. My introduction will be about how pop singers make a lot of money and some people begrudge them that. We talk about songs, and today with the revolution of technology, people can have songs everywhere. They have small radios, transistors, they have radios, they have television and thousands of channels broadcasting these songs and other things. They have iPods or MP3 players. So technology gave us a device or many devices that can be used to propagate these, to use these songs. Songs are everywhere, and these pop singers can publish their songs everywhere and they make a lot of money. Now, I said what I'm talking about, the idea of money and how it is a lot and how they are pop singers, etc. in the introduction. People sometimes, this is in the introduction again, say that they do not deserve all that money. However, I think they do deserve the money they make. This is introducing the subject. I said why we support them, then I come at the conclusion and say again, therefore, because of these ideas, these singers really deserve the money they make. Then I need to make a commentary. The commentary could be a number of things. One of them is some kind of reservation. Some people would say, I agree with you that there are great singers that deserve a lot, but there are singers who do not deserve that. So I make a small reservation at the end to make the subject complete, and I say these singers deserve the money are those who know what they are doing, who study art, who have talent, and who really present something good to the society, who enhance the taste of the society and make singing an art. This does not apply to singers who debase art, singers who teach people bad things. So this is the reservation at the end. We believe that these singers are good. If they are good like that, they deserve the money. But if they are not really singers, they don't respect art or their work, they do not deserve the money they make. So this will be the conclusion of that essay. Now let's see other ideas that we can use to write about. Read the topics given by the book and attempt outlines for each of them. The book gives us examples of texts to read, and it gives us ideas to write about. There are actually 100 or 150 subjects in the book. We use information from outside the book and the book, so please don't ignore the subjects in the book. Look at them, study them, they will give you ideas, and of course you cannot write hundreds of essays, but you can write 20 essays, 40, 50, write as many as you can. The ones you don't write, turn them into outlines. So we practice writing outlines. Choose the ones you like most and turn them into full-fledged essays. So we use the book for practice. Either we just make an outline or write the full essay. Once more, we need sources. We have Al-Ahram Weekly, we have the Guardian Weekly, we have interesting things like the Time, the Times of London, or the Time magazine, the American one, or Newsweek, the Guardian Weekly, etc. Use the internet and the site we mentioned before, Arts and Letters Daily. This site is a blog that gives you a number of suggestions, and we say there is hypertext there where it says at the end more, exactly like this one. If you like the small rectangle, they write this in rectangles like that, about this issue or that issue, you click on more, the hypertext will take you to the newspaper and you see long essays. Many students say, we find these essays very difficult. Try them, browse them, expose yourself to them. Later on you'll be able to read some of these essays. Example of a thesis and division of supporting ideas. Another example, because we learn by examples, video games harm children. This is what we call a claim. People make this claim, and people make the opposite claim. The claim says that video games harm children. We can dilute this a little by saying video games may harm children. So we suit ourselves, but usually, because we cannot have the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, we know a little about anything, so we are a little humble. We say that they may harm children. Scientists will do that until they have conclusive evidence that they are of harm and nothing else. So while writing about video games, there are 2 points of view at least. One of them say that video games enhance the abilities of students to use computers, or enhance their abilities to follow certain movements and action, etc. They are entertainment. There are points that say that these video games are good. But there are also other points that say they are bad. We need to study both and then choose one, adopt one point of view and write about it. The one point of view adopted in front of us is that a writer says, I stand against video games because they are more harm than use. But I'll talk only about the harm. We make a claim and we support it. The claim is the one sentence saying video games may harm children or may harm people. This is a claim, we need to support that. If I support this with 3 pieces of evidence or a number of pieces of evidence, I will make a full argument. Now let's see the diagram again, and we think in this way. We always divide our ideas in this manner. Video games harm children. Why? Because of a number of reasons that can be sorted out in this manner. We can categorize them in this manner. There are physical reasons, there are mental reasons, there are social ones. The harm is physical, mental, and social. And every one will be in a paragraph by itself. Let's say what's physical. To talk about the physical harm, I need to talk about 2 or 3 points. For example, harm to the body in general, because of no movement. Then harm to the nerves. We may add on harm to the backbone, harm to the eyes. Now every one of them, of course, is here written in the format of a list of words or phrases. But in writing actual essays, there will be no phrase by itself. Every one of them will have to turn into a sentence. For example, physical here, we can say the most prominent harm of video games is a physical one. Now I just made a phraseology, just phrasing this in any manner. I can write it in symbol one saying there is a physical aspect. Or most important of all is the physical aspect. Or most importantly, comma, the physical aspect affects children in a bad manner, etc. Just turn this into a sentence. When we say body here, we mean the whole body is harmed, because the child needs movement in order to grow, and to grow in the right way. If there is no movement, video games means that they are sitting all the time. The body will not grow naturally. The growth will be stunted somehow. They grow not in the right way. There is harm to the nerves because the movement is repetitive and very fast. Some children develop epilepsy. This is to the brain, of course, but this may not be proven, but there is a danger. And so on. Talk about details and details and details in the body. Then move to the mental one. Mental one, we say there is no creativity. They use the same game over and over again, and then other games, they do not write books, they don't do things that will make them learn more. Then we can carry on about how this harms them. We can talk about the social harm, another paragraph, and how they don't develop relation with other people. There is no relation with people in the family, no relation with family, other children, brother and sister, father and mother, because the child will sit alone in front of the screen of the video game for hours and hours, isolated, introverted, not dealing with others. And no new friends. This child doesn't go out to society, the larger society. The child is isolated socially, and the child does not develop new social skills. So this is how we divide our subject, and we should try this with hundreds of others taken from the book at least, and from the newspapers we mentioned, or any other source. Thank you.